Hey guys, welcome to the Blue Collar Business Podcast, where we discuss the realest, rawest, most relevant stories and strategies behind building every corner of a blue collar business. I'm your host, Cy Kirby, and I want to help you in what it took me, trial and error, and a whole lot of money to learn. The information that no one in this industry is willing to share. Whether you're under that shade tree or have your hard hat on, let's expand your toolbox. All right, guys, welcome back to another episode. Thank you so much for joining me. I have another wonderful guest in the equipment world coming back at you guys. We've been talking several different episodes about the rental game, the purchase game, and I have brought my true friend in the industry that I have bought quite a bit of equipment with over the last couple of years. As you guys know, at Sycon, we run Komatsu gear. And the reason why is the gentleman sitting here with me today. We're going to be talking about some tips for negotiating better deals and contracts. He's a gentleman that has some advice for every man and woman listening. Budgeting basics for equipment, building strong customer relationships, industry trends we're going to be watching, and I'm probably most excited to hear about the industry trends to watch, being a dealership manager for as long as you've been in the equipment world. You were with Stribling Equipment for almost 12 years, and that's where I met Mr. Hooper. Tim Hooper is the current branch manager for Power Equipment for the last 5 years here in Springdale, Arkansas, Northwest Arkansas area region, and you guys cover more than that. But furthermore, thank you so much for joining me, man.
Well, thank you for having us.
Yeah,
apologize for the kind of the clear in my throat. It hadn't rained here in about 6 months, so
dude, it hasn't. It's bad.
When a dirt guy is praying for rain,
I'm praying
it's
every
dry.
day.
It's dry.
I'm tired of hydrant meters, and I'm tired of water trucks. I'm tired of all of those issues that we have been dealing with, and we're actually working at the airport right now, and aircrafts and dust, and it really terrible. Hasn't been super fun. But
the only thing it's good for is the hours of my lawnmower. I haven't turned my lawnmower in about a month.
You've got a yard too to cover,
and it's all nice and crunchy. So we need some rain.
Before we go too far, you can find all of our episodes and the episodes I was referring to at the bluecollarbusinesspodcast.com website. Every Wednesday at 5 a.m. we are bringing you guys a new episode, and I am filming one every single week. It is definitely taking some time in this adjustment for me to get used to ensuring that I'm bringing you guys episodes every week, and I'm really hoping you guys are finding some value. Make sure you're following along on all your streaming platforms, whatever streaming platform you're on. Make sure you give us a follow and give this a rating once you're done listening. So, furthermore, man, I want to get into our conversation of the day. A little bit more intro on me and Tim's relationship. Like I said, I knew Tim when he was back at Stribling. I was looking for a backhoe, and this was 8 or 9 years. No, probably 5 or 6 years ago. I may have known you a little bit earlier since then, but ended up going a different direction, and then years move on, and I'm looking to acquire some big gear because I needed to make a jump. As a smaller excavation guy, I was either do it or don't. And back then, interest rates were down. I'm glad I did jump when I did.
Absolutely.
And you helped me so, me and Sarah. Man, those were some major moves we made. And I don't even think me and Sarah sat back and realize how big of jumps those were when we did. But man, you navigated the situation. You handled it with care. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate being there for our first big jump, and hopefully for many more to come.
I'm going to stop you there.
Go ahead.
I actually got this question asked of me earlier this morning: "Is you ever get tired of this job?" Mm-hmm. And of course, everybody has days, right, when you want to, throw everything out the window. But we've sold a lot of equipment throughout the years, and with Stribling and also with Power. But you and Sarah come in, hat in hand, hold a hand, sit down, and said, "We don't really have any idea what we're doing, but we need to do something because we're drowning." And that's
still hard.
But you're fighting, and that's what gets me up in the morning.
Yep.
Is the big deals are awesome, and you high five it, but getting you and Sarah started with brand new equipment and all this other stuff, and kind of helping you guys through that, and sometimes having to say, hey, we don't really need to do that. As a salesman, if your salesman sometimes don't tell you no, you don't need that. You probably ought to get a different salesman.
Yep.
And I think that I think that we're jumping way ahead of our sheet here, but I think that's what you've got to do, especially if you're getting in the business. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, I'm not going to talk about brands and models and all that good stuff.
Right.
At the end of the day, I think the dealership and the relationship that they have with their customers means more than the brand of equipment they're running.
I would agree with that in some cases.
If you don't have a dealer that cares about you, that wants to partner in your business, that honestly wants you to succeed, I don't care what you're running. It's going to be a tough road.
It is going to be a tough road, right. and that kind of leads directly into our first main topic of the day. And when we were buying and acquiring our equipment, talking about good salesmen, I was sitting here with Tim. I'm like, look, what's the added expenses? What are the things that we're not seeing coming down the road? He's like, well, how about that 500,000, that 1,500, that 2,000, and all the way until 4,000 hour. Every 500 hours, these are big pieces of equipment. If you're not servicing them, they'll deteriorate very, very quickly. Bigger the parts, bigger the money, bigger the problems. And Tim came at me with, hey, dude, have you ever thought about putting it into the deal from the get-go? And I'm like, you can do that? He's like, oh, yeah, we can absolutely do that, and we can do it even better, in which you do to this day. I get phone calls nowadays, guys. It's, hey, it's this Scott with the service department. Hey, your wheel loader's coming up on 1,000-hour service. Could you tell me where that's at? Actually, I know where it's at, but tell me what a good day is for me to run out there. That is unbelievable, and it's a game changer in our world, and it's things that just like that, and warranties that I didn't even think about, but talk about endlessly. I know you can, but the main key points here.
So, I've been in the industry about 20 years, and to be honest with you, the profit margin at the branch level per equipment honestly has gotten smaller,
dwindling.
So, that time where you walk in and you're like, you negotiate, $5,000 or $10,000 off a piece of equipment. It's probably not there anymore. It's just not there to get, right? However,
especially in the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. However, I think if I was you coming at it, I would be negotiating warranty and PM agreements. So with your situation, we put all of your equipment on a 48-month, 4,000 hour. It's for Komatsu. It's called K-Care Plus 2. Basically, you have full machine warranty for the entire 4,000 hours. We come out and do PM agreements every 500. So that's basically your oil changes, filter service, and then your 1,000 and 2,000, all the thousands add
big boys.
Something. Yeah, they're pretty expensive. And so with a lot of dealerships, they charge you travel time and mileage, all this other stuff, So the K-Care not only takes care of your PM agreements, but under that 4,000, if there's any warranty repair done, the travel time and mileage is included in that.
That's a big deal, guys, too.
And, for example, you're an hour away from the dealer. You have a $200 part that breaks, okay? So they're going to send a truck out there to diagnose it. They're going to tell you that they're going to diagnose it from the computer in the office. They're not. They're going to send a truck out there, diagnose it. It's going to come back. They're going to get the part. They're going to go back out there. So that $200 part is free of charge. The $1,800 travel time and mileage bill that you just get in the mail is not.
You bet.
So I think that is a very good case for you to negotiate with the dealer because, number one, it does several things. Number one, it increases your relationship with the dealer, right? The more they're calling you, the more you're calling them. Getting to know someone, the relationships that you're building, they know they're going to be working on your equipment.
Yep. And they're going to know your equipment too.
That's right. Because every 500 hours that we come out and do it, you get an inspection report in your email that tells you everything we found. And a lot of times we find this, especially in the quarries, that we have the same type program.
I can imagine.
We find so much stuff before it happens.
Yep.
And it's a whole lot easier to fix because, it's a chain reaction, right? So, U-joint fails on a big haul truck. Next thing you know, it's not a $1,000 U-joint. It's a, $50,000 transmission. So, that can get out in front of you. So if I was negotiating with machines, your interest rate's going to be probably there. Your sales process is probably going to be there. But I think the big benefit to a customer is warranty and PM agreements going through the dealership.
100%. And then making sure that dealer has a service department. You guys have heard me talk about this so many times on here. When you're talking about buying equipment, you have to find the dealer that has the service department, which you guys do. Mm-hmm. Man, and it has been, I'm 2 years and 2 months since we bought all that gear, started out buying all that bigger gear. And I've got to say, to this day, the service department has always been there, no matter what's going on, how small, how big, because I know I've got one operator that can be very needy at times, but he sure keeps the machine clean.
He's the one that keeps the machine looking good too. Yeah. So needy operators are not all that bad as far as we're concerned. But look, everybody's human, right? We're going to make mistakes. We're going to fail. My deal is let's don't fail because of lack of effort,
right?
And so I don't know if I can say this on a podcast, but you can't replace a give a shit attitude,
right?
And if you don't have a building full of people with that same attitude,
it's all about building that team.
You're not going to win.
That's right.
Look, I feel like I'm pretty good at my job.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also, I know for 100% that I may sell you one, but I will never sell you two through however many.
Exactly.
That's 100% parts and service.
Man, the team, you're right, and you can go on more about the team, but sales and service is service after the sale that I'm looking for more than I am the sale. I'm not the, hey, what's the best deal I can get kind of I shouldn't cut that out, but but I don't go back and forth and negotiate. That's not really my style. Hey, I want this, but when I do buy this, are you going to help me keep it running? Because these are like house payments that can break down at any second and cause you 4 man hours just to be standing there per hour, 4 guys per hour, just running that clock until you get a new machine out
100%.
there.
And that kind of goes down to a couple. He did give me a couple of tabs about 5 minutes before I walked in here. So, you're talking about, for especially new guys, right? They don't have a team of people budgeting everything.
Dude, we got to talk about
another positive for your warranty or PM. You can budget every bit of that.
Yep.
So really the only thing that you need to put is, whatever hours you're charging for that machine, you need to be able to pay for your cutting edges, your bucket teeth, whatever, right?
Yep, the small stuff, the tires, the batteries,
right.
hoses.
Your normal wear and tear, right? But you're not having to put out every 500 hours for this or this.
I'm telling you, or get that mileage bill.
Yes, because that stuff you can't prepare for. You don't know when that's going to happen.
No, and it eats you alive because it just becomes a common reoccurrance. And
it's 100,000 paper cuts.
That's a good.
And we all know that those hurt worse than anything else.
No, for sure. And that exactly kind of leads us to where we're going is budgeting basics in equipment. And nobody better, again, to talk about this said subject and rental and lease and purchase. I've talked about it in length here and over on the YouTube channel. But rental, lease, purchase is a very sketchy game to play because
it's all convoluted, right?
Exactly. Go ahead.
Because people talk about leases, but they're really talking about rentals. People talk about rentals, they're really talking about leases. So, and you've got to figure out what fits, right?
Yep.
I think, from rental, leases, RPOs to straight purchases, every one of those are good programs, depending on where you're at in your
100%.
If
in your program, your company,
and what you need. When you're starting out, you don't know if you're going to need X equipment. Right?
You're exactly right.
You start out and you start renting, and then you figure out, oh, I don't need this size equipment at all. I'm not even using it. I
start
thought,
throwing darts against the wall, and some stick. About 75% of them don't even stick into the wall.
Yeah. So it's good that the most expensive way to own equipment is the rental or lease.
Yep.
Okay. Now the rental is going to give you the most flexibility.
Right.
So, for example, you go to a rental store, you're going to be able to rent that. Not really a lot of credit checks and history checks. It's a lot easier to go in and rent something. There's no way that you're going to be able to purchase that equipment. You can't RPO it. It's basically whatever that money you're spending for rent is out the window.
Yep.
Right?
You're blowing her straight out the window.
Now, that being said, some people, they take so many different jobs, they can't have a certain fleet.
Yep.
Right? So that's perfect for them. Then you've got the RPO.
I'm a big fan.
I am too. You've got different dealerships that do RPOs differently.
Very.
Okay. And so you need to really sit down with your dealer and say, okay, what does me purchase in 3 months look like, 6 months look like, to a year, right? Because it's going to cost, because dealerships aren't banks, right? They're having to, so if we do an RPO, basically we write a check to Komatsu. So we're out all that money on an option, right, that you're going to buy it within a certain amount of time. So it's not good for the dealer, and it's not good really for everyone.
Right.
But it's a way to – I always
creative.
looked at RPOs as two major advantages. Number one, it makes sure you need the equipment, that it's going to work in your – it's going to work.
That's
right?
a big deal for this guy
100%.
on this side of the table for sure.
Another thing, too, is if you're going to need a down payment to finance – let's say you're financing with Komatsu Financial and you want a down payment, okay? We do the credit app. We're like, okay, yep, we'll finance them 10% down, blah, blah. Well, a lot of new startups don't have 10% down.
We did.
And it's not like we're talking about, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000.
It's a chunk of change.
There's some zeros in there, right? So a lot of people will rent and use that as their down payment.
Yeah.
So, for example, at Power Equipment, what I think is a really good 6-month and down program. We do first 3 months, same as cash.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty deadgum impressive. 100% of your rent applies, 0 interest. That's awesome. To 6 months, we do 100% applies, but they will do, because we're carrying the note.
Right.
They'll do a 1% declining balance on your balance of whatever machine you're financing.
Okay.
So you will have to pay some interest on that. After about 6 months, you really got to start weighing it, because there's a downside, right?
Yeah.
You're spending more money.
You're giving away value and equity.
And especially when interest rates was what they were when you bought them, there was no reason not to finance.
Back then, it was
0 for 48,
God.
And I will say this, the Komatsu programs just came out yesterday, and there are some 0 for 48 and 2.9s for 60s that I'm getting really excited about, because it's our bread and butter stuff. But, those, I do feel like that interest rates will be falling at some point on a deal. But
with the Fed coming down a half, I mean, overall, it's not that big of a deal.
Think,
it's just a big deal that he's coming down.
Yes,
it's not going up.
I think between 6 months and a year, I think you'll see a pretty good decline.
I think so too. Man.
Now, I will say this: there's a lot of things, in my opinion, that's either going to be positive or negative based on what happens here in a little bit. There's a big thing called the election coming up.
The elephant. In November.
And we don't need to get talking into politics. But okay, so let me get back to leasing. So leasing is you don't own the machines. Okay? So you walk in like, look, I've got a 1-year project, 2-year project, 3-year project, whatever. And leasing is the most expensive way to own a piece of equipment.
It is.
Okay? Now, there was a couple of things that people used to lease for, and it was tax benefits. Because that didn't go, you're trying to, bond work, and you've got all this equipment on your books, right? Now, you need to get with your CPA depending on where you live, this and that, but a lot of that has changed. Leasing's not as attractive because they're making them show that on your books, right? But so leasing, basically what you're going to do is you're going to have a stated purchase option at the end of that lease. Okay, so whatever that is.
Balloon note.
Yes, there you go. Now, the good thing is basically it's a cheap rental.
Yes.
And if you want to look at it that way, it's not a bad way to look at it. Like say, okay, I've got 3 pieces of equipment that is going to be my bread, butter, and I want them to look brand new, and I want them to be the statement of my company, right? I'm going to put these 3 pieces of equipment on a 3-year lease. And I'm going to have cheap rent. I'm not going to own anything.
Yep.
At the end of that 3 years, I'm turning it back in.
Getting brand new stuff.
Then there's nothing wrong with it.
You bet.
If you plan on buying it, now you're going to have to go out and you're going to have to finance that balloon payment.
It's not fun.
And if you look at it on a retail side versus a lease side, it may cost you $100, $200 more a month.
Yep.
And you owned it, and you're owning it after that 4 years or 3 years or whatever it is, right?
Yep.
There's not a whole lot of difference anymore.
I'm in the same boat right now. For an example, for this side of the table, when I say that, owners and contractors and the 36-month lease, the only thing I would suggest in that kind of category would be skid steer or a Mini X. Say a Mini X. A Mini X is going to take a freaking beating. It's not something you necessarily want to own unless it's like your mom and pop kind of plumber outfit, and that's the one machine, and it's going to get taken care of, and you can get 3 or 4 years after it. But if you are a excavation outfit like myself or utility outfit, and you're going to have a foreman in and out of it with his muddy boots, and they're going to check the oil once every other couple of weeks, you probably want to stick something like that on a lease because you, as long as you know you're always
you're always disposable.
You bet you're always going to have the payment, right?
Yeah.
You have to have that mindset of, okay, as long as I have that payment, it's always going to be there, but I'm never going to have any downtime because that's not my machine and that's not my worry. That's how I believe in my head. You know?
I will tell you this. If you do a lease, make sure you have warranty on it for the entire time.
100%.
Do a PM agreement.
Yep.
Okay? Because I'm going to tell you, a lot of people look at lease equipment as rental equipment. It's not my machine. And they have a bad day.
My Bobcat E45, I found that out. I got sold. It was my first ever set of machines, as you know. Man, I figured that out. All I got told was I had to have brand new tracks on the machine when it came back. Had every glass in it. Every door worked. Got a couple dents in one. Maybe a limb shoved through the engine bay door. You never know. But I got told as long as I had tracks on it, she was good to go. I took her up there with a brand new set of tracks. Thought I was being, the man. Yep. Yep. Come to find out, $11,000 later.
There you go. Yeah. And see, a lot of that's not the dealership. A lot of that is whatever
the financial
company
house. It was Sheffield.
Yeah.
100%.
So they're going to get something that they're going to be at whatever that residual value is. You're going to fix it until it gets to that residual value. All right, that's going to happen. Leasing, like I said, several years ago was a lot more attractive than it is now.
For sure.
The one thing you got to look about leasing though is, let's say something bad happens. All right, let's say COVID happens. Okay, and your lease is up. Now you don't have a machine.
Yeah.
It's not yours.
Yeah. It's not like you can just go grab one off the shelf.
No, and some. Some dealers or some financials will extend it. They'll do this, they'll do that. It's not going to. It's not a good situation to be in because at the end of the day, if you own something, it's yours. Nobody's taking that away from you as long as you make your payments. The bank may
100%.
But it's yours.
Yep.
And it's there. The lease may not be.
Right.
Like everything else, I was very proud of Komatsu the way they managed through COVID. We couldn't buy a piece of equipment to put on our yard. We couldn't buy a stock machine. We couldn't buy a rental machine. We couldn't buy anything. But we could buy as long as we had a customer signature. And that's how they made sure that the customers had equipment.
Yep.
We grew our market share tremendously during COVID because we had equipment to sell.
Right.
A lot of dealers, when COVID hit, they went out and bought up as many machines as they could. And they hoarded them, right?
Yeah.
Komatsu wouldn't let us do that. And to be honest with you, I was very thankful that they did that. Now, our rental fleet, we were projected to put on about 150 machines I think we got 8.
Wow. 20. This is 2020. I'm assuming 2021 somewhere in there.
So the rental side, we were rolling at 99% utilization, which makes everything look really good.
Yeah, it
except
does.
for all the customers you had to say no to. You're one of them, right? And so it does make it challenging.
Yep. No, for sure. But if you guys have loved this conversation, make sure you're checking out bluecollarbusinesspodcast.com.
And he promises to get some better people actually, interview him.
No, dude, you've done great so far.
The 10 other people canceled on him I just happened to be in the area.
We are booked out. I am literally booked until end of November.
Good for you.
Right there at the first week of December. And it's just been the reaction and the feedback from people coming in here. And while we've got a little bit of a side note, you mentioned earlier, man, team building, and you have a great team there. Brandon's, I can go and list your whole team, but they all have purposes, and it's not a bunch of micromanaged crap. They all have, things to do and things to take care of, and they do it well. And I know I can go to Katina and take care of something without talking to Tim, etc. So that's what I have tried to pride myself on is everything within my team and building my team. But man, there's struggles it takes to build a team and then to be effective. And then you think you've got to hear all to find out you're actually here along, and now you've got to take a step further back.
Yeah.
Dealership network the same way with hiring blue collar.
100%. We've got right now, if I had 6 technicians walk in the door, and obviously they've got to be pretty. They've got to have experience. But 5 of them wasn't going to gel with the team and the attitude. That I need 6. I would take 6 tomorrow.
Right.
And I'd put them in 5 trucks.
Yep.
Tomorrow. That's no problem. But you've got to. We have not hired people that was overly qualified for the position.
Same here. I'm not a big one.
Because
qualifications.
Well, you've got to fit in with the team.
Yes, sir.
Right. And one bad apple. You hear all kinds of stories. One cancer, this, that, da da da. But it's amazing how fast morale will go up or down depending on who you've got in your building. Right. So.
I couldn't agree more.
I let the other guys focus on if we're in an interview hiring a tech or whoever, I'll let the service manager worry about background and technical stuff, and I'm sitting there listening to the person.
Right.
I want to hire off character.
Right.
Everything else you can teach.
Yep.
We've got a gentleman that he come in. We have a great intern program. It's basically a 2-year internship, so. We'll take a tech. We pay him throughout this whole deal. Actually, pretty well.
Okay.
He works at the store with our mechanics. We've got a couple of guys that are just really, really good. They're kind of that older, but they're just like grandpas, right?
You bet, papas.
And if you show interest, they will bend over backwards to teach you and help you. So we'll put those guys with those guys for 3 weeks out of the month, and then 1 week we have a big training facility in Louisville. So we send them to Louisville. All this is paid for. And we pay basically for their education for 2 years. They go through our internship program. And we've got one that graduated, it's probably been 6 months now. And I remember this is how it should be an interview. If you're interviewing somebody, somebody ought to make an impression.
Right.
This gentleman walked in front of me and said, My dad and mom, they immigrated here, and he said they did it. They came through. They did the best that they could to get me here to have a better future, and it's my job to break the mold.
That's cool. That is so cool.
And he graduated 6 months ago, and he is fabulous.
I bet he is. It's that immigrant mentality.
Well, and it's not only that. It's just like it's my responsibility to change.
Yep.
If I want my position it's my responsibility. It's not, I should have that.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Must be nice.
And you know how it is. You know, you're a business owner, and people see that, and they're like, oh, he's got it made.
Oh, buddy.
They don't realize
must be nice. Must be.
Yeah,
Oh,
they don't
I hate
realize,
that.
They don't realize the late nights and signing your name and knowing
risking
what it's
your
gonna
life
do.
away and not having any idea. But
you know, so that's what you got. You got to look for the character in people, I think, to build your team around, and they've got to care as much as about Cy Kirby and about Sycon as you do.
yeah, it's hard too, man.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
very hard.
It's thank God I have one of the best teams I ever had, and I said that 8 months ago. But little did I know, I had a lot of work to do within my team over the last 6-8 months as we've restructured. We have restructured because of the toxicity, and little did I know again, man, it was at the top level with within my leadership. And, you know, you're blind to it a lot of times because things are going and they're moving, etc. But if they're not moving efficiently, and they're not all because of what? A tough conversation? Because you don't want to say, hey, so-and-so, you really suck at your job. And not only is it causing me a bunch of headaches, but you're disturbing the peace amongst everybody. And
Sure.
something's got to change. And so if you have one or two of those conversations of, hey, look, I get it, this and this happened. It's probably on me because I didn't train you. But here's the thing. Your attitude has got to change because everyone around you is talking with your name in their mouths. Right. And when they come into Boss Man's office and you hear the same name over and over again from 5 or 6 total different departments, and I'm like, you guys all have something to say about so-and-so? Why didn't anybody freaking tell me? Because I'll nix them out of the team as quick as possible. But I know you've had the same experiences. Sure. I could only imagine. But
well, and don't give up on people just because you have. You know, I had a guy tell me this a long time ago. It's really stuck with me. Everybody can fire someone.
Oof.
It takes a true manager to turn things around.
Yes.
And so, you know, I think, you know, ultimately, sometimes you have to make that, you know, and it sucks. I'm going to tell you, to fire people, that's the worst thing.
It's tough. I mean,
I
hated it.
Yeah, I hate that. And
we had to do a little layoff earlier this year, just to be real, and I had to. Oh my God, dude, it's
depressing. So I mean, it's 2 or 3 days of just your stomach is in knots.
Yeah, dude,
because you know you're affecting their family, right?
Yep.
And they're in their
life. Of course,
livelihood.
And if you care, if you're a good manager, you care.
Yep. So I have found the best way to treat that is to, if you hear that going on, take the person outside of work. Whether it means let's go grab lunch.
It's a great idea.
Let's go do something. Let's get away from the environment that right now is causing some grief. And you know, and the first thing is, I think you need to ask, you know, hey, I've seen this change.
Yep.
Are you okay?
Yes. It's so big, man.
And a lot of times, if you show the employees you care, not only will they open up and let you know what's going on, but number 2, a lot of times they don't realize what they're doing.
Exactly.
Right.
And there's so many times that we have built resentment for things that I had no clue of. They built resentment against me that I had no idea was even a thing. You know, whether it was they believe that I said this or that I did this or I carried out this procedure when it had nothing to do with me, but accounting needed this to happen in order for them to get their vendors to get paid and this approved, and it added a step on them. But, it's Boss Man, whatever the case may be. And there's also that personal resentment that is also building the whole time when one thing happens within the business or there's a altercation. Then from that moment, if that's not nurtured back into the team, that person feels shunned away. Then they start on this escapade. So yes, I think the number one thing in the team as a leader is, hey, you okay? You're just different today, man. You drank your cup of coffee, but you ain't the same. And it's not, and the big thing is for me, and I'm not saying I'm the best leader by any means, but criticize in private and praise in public has been 100%. A big thing for me. And taking them aside and going, number one, hey man, you okay? Okay, if you're telling me you're okay, why in the hell is this going on?
Right.
But
you need to win. You need to win together and lose together too.
That's so good, man. Yeah.
And you're supposed to lose with grace.
Yes.
And be humble when you win. Right. You can fist bump in private. You can do backflips on the hallway, or you can go kick your dog. Whatever the case may be. Do that in private, but win and lose with the team.
Yeah.
Make them. Everybody needs to feel ownership.
Have to. Accountability drives that.
And if they're going to wear Sycon on their hat, they better be damn proud to wear it.
Exactly. 100%, man.
Yep.
And this is actually leading again. Wow, this is done. You've done great, my guy. I don't know what you were worried about.
As my wife says, sometimes you can't shut me up.
So I figured it'd be a perfect platform.
Exactly,
you know what I mean?
Right?
But we've sat here and talked about building a great team and a couple of things to watch out for in the negative realm. But let's talk about and flip the script here for just a minute and talk about building strong customer relationships from the dealer network and how you provide that, number one, from a personal level, but also two, just from the business standards of what that really actually means to you.
Well, step one, before the customer, is you've got to have people with integrity at your dealership. There's a couple of things that, number one, that's not my job. Oh my God.
I get so mad, dude.
But number two, there will be no lying. I don't care if it's bad news. I don't care what it is.
It sucks. Just
because that is a slippery slope, and it only gets harder and harder and harder to figure it out. So you're going to have to you have to feel the dealership's got to be. You've got to feel comfortable, and you've got to trust your dealer, right? Because listen. It ain't like you're going and buying. Of course, cars now for big expensive.
$100,000, but
it's not like a car dealership, right?
Yeah.
You buy a car from your salesman that you like. All right. You may buy another car from him,
right?
But you're not communicating with him on oil changes, on service, on breakdowns, on this, on that.
For the life of the car.
For the most people, a car is a means to make money.
Yes.
Right. It's a means to get you there. Okay. The machines you're buying, sole purpose is to make money.
Produce.
So when it's not running,
it's a big deal.
It ain't making money, right?
It's a big damn deal.
So, from parts, service, sales, you have to have a team that has integrity.
Yep.
And that's one thing that, going back to hiring off character, right? Yep. So never lie to a customer. I don't care what it is. Don't do it.
It ain't worth
don't
it.
ever do it. And it really goes back to, it's really simple. The golden rule. Treat others like you expect to be treated.
Yeah.
And number two, we kind of talked about a little bit is the give a shit, but take care of your customers. Every decision you make, look, we'll sit down, and a lot of times it's not good for the dealership to do what we're having to do.
Right.
But it's the right thing to do.
Yep, morally.
I will never manage off of a spreadsheet.
It's hard.
I refuse it. I will not do it. Because if you're solely focused on that spreadsheet, number one, you don't have the relationship with the customer.
You bet.
Because you couldn't do it.
You bet.
So, we're talking about that. I think you have to build that relationship where there's trust. There's a partnership, right?
Has to be, man.
Because if you don't succeed, we don't succeed.
Exactly.
Right? If you don't grow, we're not growing.
Right.
And you have to treat everybody as a true partner.
Yeah.
And sometimes you got to tell them, no, do not buy that. That is not the right machine for you. This is not right for you. Don't do this or don't do this. So you got to have that relationship built where you can actually say that. But sometimes you got to do things that doesn't make sense financially, but it makes sense for the relationship and to get it out. And I always
maybe like. And it's so funny, and the relatable in HVAC guy throwing a little extra duct here in the garage, or the guy throwing a little extra outlet in for Granny in her house, or we all do these extras. The guy brings in a little extra dirt or smooths out. But same in your world, you have to.
100%.
And if you don't, if you're worried about those numbers, you're gonna fail.
100%. It's funny. It sounds all simple, right?
It does.
We haven't talked about anything that's earth shattering. Sales 101, kind of stuff. But it really is that simple, and at some point the customer is they're going to get a feel for you, right? Good, bad, or indifferent. They're going to get a feel for you.
Yep.
Some customers, you may not be the one they want to deal with.
Right.
And you've got to be saying, look, I'm not really going to be, it's just, we're not going to gel. And, some you will. And you can't take that as fault. We're all different, right? We're all humans. We like different stuff. But at the end of the day, I've been doing this for almost 20 years. I mean, I'm getting old.
Little salt and pepper.
Yeah, got the Sopranos wings going on here. I'm trying to think. I don't think there's ever been a situation in 20 years that I have sat down with a customer on an issue. Now, I will say this. I firmly believe that there's nothing that cannot be solved if you sit down and talk about it. But there's a little bit of prerequisite that. Number one, you got to be willing to listen to both sides. Okay. As a customer, you can't come in demanding.
Nope.
All right. You can't come in yelling, screaming, demanding. Number one,
get you nowhere.
If you come in there, I won't talk to you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm not going to. If you want to come in and talk to me like an adult and we sit down and let's figure this out, I want to figure this out.
You bet.
Then I will bend over backwards.
Right.
You come in raising hell, probably not going to get a whole lot.
I mean, it just don't get anybody anywhere.
So come in, sit down. Like I said, I think anything. There's always a solution to be found, of course. But both parties have to respect each other, and both parties actually have to want to find a solution. And I think that's the key.
Yep. 100%.
And if that's the case, like I said, there's not anything in 20 years that I can remember that we haven't.
Relationships, I've said it on every single episode on here, relationships are everything. And whether it's me and a homeowner, me, developer, dealer, equipment guy that buys a bunch of equipment, dealer in the quarry, dealer and his accounting team, it's all relationships, whether it's going up, downstream, it doesn't matter. Whether it's going laterally and the folks that you work with laterally, it's all about relationships. And whether you're wanting to nurture and put time into that relationship, whether it, just like you're saying, whether the customer wins or the dealer wins or whatever, we need to meet at that line. But there's sometimes you're not going to win the whole way. And you've got to be willing going, okay, yeah, I was upset about this, but let's see the full thing. All right. And then you sit down, and most of the time you're like, dang, I didn't know it was like that.
Bingo.
And I'm like, and most of the time I'm going to sit there and go, okay, you're right, Tim. I didn't know about this. I wasn't clued in on all that. And here's this. And you're going to be like, oh, well, yeah, I didn't really know it was like that. And then we're, okay, you meet here. And then boom, we're on. On to the next machine, on to the next job, on to the next problem.
Well, and it's pretty cool. You're talking about relationships and service and stuff. So I've been with Power Equipment. Now they actually they bought out so they're the Komatsu dealer now in Arkansas, and it's been the Power Equipment and Brandeis is basically sister companies owned by Brand Co.
Okay.
Their philosophy on so we have a 3-year strategic meeting every year. So all the managers get together, and it's about 25 people. And we come up with, usually we take about 6 to 8 months to compile this information.
Okay.
Number one, the first step is we go interview customers. So we have our customers, and we'll pick out 5 customers. From big to small, and we'll interview them. And we'll take that feedback, and this is all of our locations, all the way, we have a pretty big footprint. So, and And
mainly in the southeastern United States, right?
Yeah, so we'll go all the way to Knoxville, Tennessee, then up in, and then we're Indianapolis, Kentucky, all the way around. So this is as far as west we go. So I like to be the outpost.
I like it.
You can ask for a lot more forgiveness when you're the outpost. So we all come together. So they compile this big, huge 3-ring binder. And this is how we're going to manage for the next 3 years, right? And we come together as a team, every location, every manager, ownership group, everything. And the first, I remember they opened the meeting and said, okay, we're going to talk about the topic that's probably going to take the longest because it's the most important. Now, if you're a dealership, the number one thought that everybody's thinking about is sales.
100%.
That is not what came out of their mouth.
Wow.
Service.
Yeah. And as it should be.
100%. And we spent more time talking about service and how to take care of the customers and what's the needs, like how are their needs changing, obviously with technology, with different things like that, training for our techs, numbers, so we went through everything, about how we're trying to, service everything. So, we spent almost a full day at a 2.5-day deal. We spent almost a full day just on service.
Wow.
So you have to, there on a local dealership, I will give people outs because you can only do so much as what the company is going to, and how they present it, right? In this case, in my particular situation with Power, it has been phenomenal.
That's so awesome.
If we need something, we don't even ask.
It's crazy, man.
It's amazing. We'll hire a tech, and the first phone call I get is from one of our owners going, "Hey, when are you going to hire another one? Yeah, you need another truck." I'm going, "Golly, come on, man!"
I thought you'd be happy.
Yeah,
finally filled that last spot.
They're more on the philosophy if we build it, they will come.
Yep.
And
they're not wrong.
They're not. We went from having no really bit what I call a true service truck, right, to now we're one of the top numbers out there running the big service trucks. So we've been very, very fortunate. The last couple of 3 years we've really
put the old gas on her, eh?
Yeah,
that's what I'd say.
It's been nice. It's been nice.
Well, that kind of leads us right into the last kind of topic we've been talking about and industry trends to watch. What's shaping the future of the machinery and kind of just my world as your view sitting there learning about all the technology first. What's going on equipment. GPS capabilities. Where the direction they're going with drones and everything else. What do you see holds importance? What do you think is probably going to die within those two? That's my little extra question.
I don't know about dying, because it doesn't matter. You're gonna have old school guys still. The whole technology, GPS, machine automatics. It came from. How do I say this nicely? It came from the lack of true operators.
100%.
Right? The whole operator were, there are levels in their butt. The old bubble butt operator you always talking about. And I'm not talking about like a bubble butt.
No, I know exactly what you mean. What he's meaning is we feel it in our ass.
Yeah, it's feeling great in your ass. And it's going away. They're not out there.
It truly is.
And to be honest with you, I don't put all the blame on the young people.
It's also the owners trying to train us and be adaptable too.
You've got to have the older guys, and they were brought up where if they train somebody, they may take their job.
Yeah.
Right. And so that group has retired and not left their trade to the younger people.
You bet.
Right. So GPS is all about that. Now that's kind of where it started, right? Trying to get operators, quicker, faster, and better. But realistically, it's gotten to the point now where a lot of Arkansas Highway Department, you have to have GPS to bid a job. I mean, you cannot do the job without having it. And the reason why is not only is it checks and balances for everyone, on your side, on their side, on
I don't know why you would run without it now.
But my goodness, it will save you so much money.
Dude.
You know, you go through, you know, you got a utility job and your operator cuts at 6 inches. You don't think that's a lot. When you start putting bedding to bed the 6 inches that they undercut over whatever the job site is, you're thousands and thousands of dollars
very quickly
on that one little deal, right? So, you know, GPS, if you're not using it, number one, you're going to have to start at some point. Pretty dick'em soon.
You have to, man.
But another reason is you need to. If you're making a living without it, it's, you know, we've got, you know, I think Komatsu did a very good job, and I think they were very forward thinking. You know, you always, and to this day, you know, most companies have an aftermarket GPS that they put on the dozer, right? So now you've got and we're just going to use a dozer for example. You've got a dozer sitting here, then you've got an aftermarket GPS system, and you expect those things to work together seamlessly.
You expect it to,
and they don't, right?
Right.
You know, you're running cables. You got cables out there. You've got a mast on your blade that's sitting there just beating it to death. Yeah, and you've got a $25,000 GPS antenna on the end of that blade, just getting the shit beat out of it
every day.
You know, and so I thought Komatsu did a very good job, and they've been out for quite a while now. But I think 13 is when they released their first eye machine. So it's a Komatsu integrated dozer or excavator, you know, and they said, okay, we're going to vertically design this, the whole thing. The dozer is going to be 100%. We're going to be able to run GPS with the Komatsu computer, working with the motor, the hydrostats, everything, right? And man, they've taken that leaps and bounds. That technology, you know, it was proven, but then they've taken the proven product, and the stuff that those things can do now is just amazing.
It's kind of dumb, dude. We were fortunate to get one there off that demo day a couple years ago now, and
we're probably going to do that again next year.
Okay, cool. Look forward to it. But we dove off really hard, as you guys know. I've talked about it in length, and if you haven't, there's plethora of information on our YouTube channel at SciCon. Shameless plug there. But there is some real world walking and talking with the Basin Rovers in the TopCon platform. And there's also Sam talking about what we're talking about and what the iMachine does. And basically all you need is a base, and your iMachine is the data collector and the rover together, and it just collects information every single time it's moving. Before you even start cutting anything, that dozer can literally track your job. I don't even know if literally as it's running back and forth, it could track the entire job site just like this, and it gives you a surface for your estimator to hold on to.
It's basically every time the dozer goes across the surface, it's sending a topo.
It is. And
so your GPS is not reacting. It already knows what it's going to hit.
Yep.
And, you know, always kind of thought about, like, you know, you get an operator out there, okay, we're gonna strip 3 foot. Okay. So that operator's just sitting there going back and forth, stripping 3 foot, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes he has got a perfect pass. Probably not every pass is going to be perfect. Either he's going to be digging it so much you've got track slippage, then he's popping it. Or he may just be off in his own little world, and he may make a pass with really nothing on the blade, right? So with the iMachine, you basically get off the trailer, put it in automatics, and think about the old dirt bike when you put it in power band.
You bet.
Just wound up and let it roll, and you're 100%, bam.
Yeah.
Well, it's 100% efficiency every push.
Sam was today I was sitting out there at the airport watching him. He was using his rippers and had a full blade of push. I love our Komatsu dozer. I've talked about it in length, but the capabilities that not just the Basin Rover and the iMachine. There's also software integration that's in between it, and we use TopCon Magnet. And let me tell you something. I wish just to be absolute honest with you, I wish I would have known how big of a jump I was taking with the Magnet. Wasn't prepared in our sense of the word. We thought we were, but we weren't. Now that we are on the other 18 months of the implementation of it, it's unbelievable what we can do with a piece of property. Mm-hmm. We can build our own control.
But you've got to have that dedicated guy.
You have to. You have got to.
There is so much more. There's so much room for a mistake.
Oh, dude,
that is going to cost you dearly.
And there's so many panels. But let me tell you guys, the training is there if you have the time to give somebody. Shout out to Dylan. He was on the podcast, I think, episode number 3 or episode number 4. That's our dedicated estimator, and obviously Heath helps a little bit there, and he's actually next week. So
yep.
It's so funny. Long story short there, Dylan really struggled at first because honestly he wasn't
he's drinking from a fire hydrant.
Yes, and he was only been in the estimator role for like a year.
And then you throw all the GPS stuff on it. But I'm surprised he hadn't done a header off of a bridge.
That's the Cy Kirby way. I jumped in with 2 feet, and you know what? It's cost me dearly sometimes, and sometimes it's paid off and rewarded majorly.
100%.
But from being able to go out, hey, I was wondering this piece of property over here. Oh, yeah, let me go take some shots, set up my own control, take it back into Magnet, get a rough budgetary quantity without even having to go to a set of prints. And then if we do actually say go to contract on said idea without ever having to deal with an engineer saying we weren't dealing with a commercial piece of property, don't get super technical on me. But we could literally be 80% of the way to model for our iMachine through our takeoff and quantification process. And now I have got to polish Dylan. Dylan is wicked on that program, dude. He's wicked. It's taking about...
Oh, you can take the landowner and say, sit here, Mr. Landowner, and say, okay, here's your property right here. Where do you want this stuff?
That's exactly what we did yesterday.
And you can move it around, and you can do whatever you want to, and you can design it. So for you brought up demo days. We were out there, and they were building a horse arena. Mm-hmm. So we went out there, and we kind of got lucky. We cheated. We just flew with a drone. It took about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And then we sent it to them and said, okay, mark where you want your stuff at. And they did. And then we built the entire model in-house and sent it to him. He's like, yeah, that's perfect.
That's exactly.
And so what we did is so when he said that was perfect, we already had the machines on the site. We just
plugged her in, baby.
We didn't even plug her in.
Email her.
We just sent them directly to the machines.
Yep.
And then when demo days comes, we fire up the machine. The job's already loaded. I mean, it's kind of cheating is what it is. And it was funny. We put a guy on there that he had only moved a dozer. He had never put a blade in dirt. And we put him on, well, at the time, the biggest dozer we had there.
That's 71.
If you're going to jump in, 71, I'm sorry, but there's not a finer dozer on the market.
That's so 71.
It's pretty impressive. But we had a PXI with 30-inch pads and a ripper. We put him on there, put it on the model, put it automatics. And he looked like he'd been doing it for 20 years. I mean,
it's dumb.
It was just beautiful.
It's dumb.
Basically we showed him how to tilt his blade. Look, if you tilt it this way, the dirt will roll off, and
that's all you have to do.
And that's it.
Yep.
And, we went and got something to eat and came back.
Yep.
And
almost done, baby.
Stripped down. He's like, man, this is easy. I'm like, okay, let's don't get that crazy.
But it really is to get that product. But the time I just took, well, y'all's team's pretty good at it. They actually do build models, by the way. We've performed off a Komatsu model before. It's done great. But the time that it takes to do a takeoff, quantification, and then build the model get everything perfect and in. That's the time that is going to take, if you're going to use people in-house, it's going to take somebody some serious time. Don't throw this at them, Cy Kirby, and just give them 6 months and expect them to know everything. It's not going to happen. And it took me I actually had to go get another person to just literally sell work so that I could give him ample time to estimate and figure out this program that we're using, because it's so freaking powerful. But it's super cool because we're here. Like, he is asking me to go to a couple classes on modeling and really just refine what he's got left in Magnet.
Yep. And for those customers that are, intimidated about GPS.
Oh, yeah. I was.
You'd be a fool not to be intimidated.
Yes.
Right? That's where your dealer comes in.
100%.
Don't be intimidated by it, because it can help you. You don't have to jump off into the deep end, right? You can get an iMachine. You can rent an iMachine, rent a Basin Rover, and it doesn't matter with our iMachines. If you like Trimble, okay, that's fine. We can talk to Trimble like a Topcon. I mean, that's kind of your major three. But figure out and talk to your dealer, because in certain situations, it's going to save you money
every time.
It may not. You may go, oh my God, I just spent $60,000 on a Basin Rover and this and that.
Is that what they are now?
It depends on what all you get,
Satellite packages, man.
Yeah, and all that stuff. We got a customer that, literally, he got he was in GPS a long time ago. Their kind of thought process of their business kind of changed a little bit. Now they're back to developing, and they do a lot of their in-house development.
Yep. So
they're building for their own stuff. And so he called me and said, "Hey, let's talk about this stuff." And he's been removed from GPS for over 15 years.
Oh my God! Yeah, that's not a little bit of time.
but
that's centuries ago.
In 6 months, he go back and goes, "I want drone."
That's where we're heading to, man.
I mean, you go from nothing, right, to seeing what it'll do. And they've got 3 iMachines now. They've got a 390 excavator, a 71, and a 51, and then base rovers, everything like that. So they went from 0 to all that.
I know who you're talking about. I know where that 71 over there on east side of Springdale. I saw it working. That group. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yep.
Clean bunch too.
Oh yeah, they're nuts.
It's a clean job.
But I mean, they went from nothing to all that because they realized what it was saving them, So,
and I want to say about that job, there's a guy in a dozer, there's a guy in a track hoe, there's a guy on a roller. That's it. There wasn't 5 or 10 guys running around acting crazy.
It was, and I know that sounds so simple, but
think about the insurance too.
The amount of labor that you kill once you get up to this level, I'm telling you, is astronomical.
Well, and another thing too is think about the safety of your employees.
Yeah.
Now you don't have, we've got iMachine excavators, and you don't have to have anybody in the ditch.
Last question.
Yeah,
I got one last question, dude.
Don't make it a hard one.
It's not. It's the same question I have asked every single guest on this show so far, man. What's a takeaway for the blue collar worker who is sick of being stuck in the mud? And that could be mentally, emotionally, physically. As we know, being at the top in our departments, it's very mental, honest, that we probably don't talk about near enough. And the emotional side of trying to carry a family while we're dealing with all this extra business and keeping our customers happy. And so, but all the way down to a guy that's fixing to walk into your shop for the first day, or a guy that's fixing to jump on my crew for the first day, or maybe that's been there 90 days and wants to give up. Generalistic there.
Holy cow, that's a big old wide range. Thanks for making this one easy. I mean, I think we kind of hit it about the give a shit attitude, right? But at the end of the day, look, we're in a very good industry. Mm-hmm. We get to see stuff. We it's instant gratification.
Yeah.
And there's a downside to instant gratification too, is if you don't get it, you're a failure.
Yep.
Right. And I think, I feel like I'm a pretty positive person. I try to be a positive person. I try to project being a positive person. But yeah, there's a lot of nights where I'm up at 2:30 in the morning eating waffles.
Yeah, buddy.
Right. A lot of nights. And so, I think everybody has a different way of dealing with stress and this and that. Everybody says don't take work home with you. Good luck with that.
Yeah,
I have
especially now.
And I try not to. I really do. I got a wife and a 5-year-old. You got a family. Last thing I want to do is go home and be in a bad mood.
100%,
around the kiddo, right? Because at the end of the day, we spend more time around the people we work with than we do our own family.
Yeah.
So, I think you got to get up and you just got to try to make the best of every day. And I know that sounds cheesy, and it's not any kind of wisdom in that, but every day is a new day. And the alternative, I don't want to go down that road.
Me neither, brother.
So we're going to keep fighting, dragging, dogging it out, and you're going to have good days and you're going to have bad days. And that's just life.
Find a way to win, man.
At the end of the day, you got to believe in something higher than ourselves.
That's right.
And I think that gives maybe hope, maybe peace, maybe I don't want to sit there and preach to anybody, but you got to find something beside yourself to believe it, even if it's believing in your family.
You bet.
Right. You've got to have a reason to get up and go to work in the morning.
Yep.
And if you don't have that, I think you're going to struggle.
No, you are.
Because individually, we're horrible.
And literally, dude, I just had a gentleman, been with me almost 3.5 years, almost 4 years coming up. He just had a baby, first baby. And he was shy, timid, quiet. Dude, in 3 days of this week, I have heard more from him. I've heard more of him on the job site. I'm just looking at him like he is, I'm telling you,
he's
immediate
got a purpose
change.
now,
Oh, yes.
He's
and
daddy.
I was the same way.
Yep,
as soon as
too.
I saw that little guy come out, I was like, whoo. Everything just changed. Everything in my world just changed.
You're not fighting for material things and things that you feel like was important. Your whole priority list changes
100%.
when a little guy comes.
Yep.
Or a little girl.
Yep. Got another one
And
coming.
you know what? Really?
Did you not know that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, I got a little girl
Congratulations.
coming on
Awesome,
Christmas.
brother.
Yeah.
What a Christmas present. I'm going to go on with Sarah. I did not know that.
Yeah, literally.
But
seriously.
But yeah, it makes you go a little harder. It makes you think about things differently. But I think also it changes how you look at things. And it could do it for the good or the worse, right?
Yes.
So you've got to find a way to stay positive. And you've got to find out whether it's we're in the mountain biking capital of the world right here, right?
Yeah.
So whether it's getting on a mountain bike and getting away for an hour, going sitting in front of a pond for an hour, whatever's your thing,
healthy.
right?
Mine's my front porch.
I tell you what, sometimes when I get overwhelmed, I go eat lunch by myself. I pull out my little Kindle on my phone and I spend 45 minutes and I read.
Yeah. Do whatever you got to do.
That's how I can lose myself. So I think it's important that we all have time for ourselves. We get back to neutral. Different people have different ways of getting there.
Self-realizations and self-reflection is so important
100%.
for growth, for business growth, but personal growth as well. But
hey, you can't lead people if you can't lead yourself.
You can't love people if you can't love yourself.
Nope.
And that goes hand in hand. If you're trying to be a leader, and you got to show a little bit of love. And I think a lot of people need to look inward. But man, Tim, seriously, thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me. I enjoyed it.
It was so much fun.
And the 2 minutes that was lost was the best 2 minutes that I had. So I apologize to everybody that don't get a chance to have that.
And guys, I hope you guys got as much enjoyment as me and Tim did, because it was a wonderful hour and a half conversation, about an hour conversation for you guys. And make sure you guys check out bluecollarbusinesspodcast.com. That's where you're going to find all of our episodes. You don't even have to have a streaming platform. You can watch it on there, listen to it on there directly from the website, and hit that subscribe to the newsletter. But if you are listening to us on one of your streaming platforms, make sure you give us a follow on there, give us a like, whatever it may be, and look for us next Wednesday at 5 a.m. We will see you guys next time. Thank you so much. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to give it a like, share it with the fellers, check out our website to send us any questions and comments about your experience in the blue-collar business. Who do you want to hear from? Send them our way, and we'll do our best to answer any questions you may have. Till next time, guys.